Welcome to a B-Roll Brothers podcast. This is ABC DVD, two brothers' alphabetical journey through our DVD collection that could kick the British Empire out of our home. I'm Josh.
I'm Noah.
And today we're talking about Gandhi,
Mm-hmm.
a 1982 biopic about the man who, through his passivity, helped the Indian people overcome the British Empire, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the story, the reverse, American story of, well, how can you get the British out? Well, you don't have to fight them, apparently.
You just ask them.
Yeah,
ask them and just keep asking them and being a stubborn person.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this was directed by Richard Attenborough, for his directorial known things, he did Bridge Too Far, A Chorus Line, Cry Freedom, and Chaplin. But you might actually know him as the guy from Jurassic Park or the remake of Miracle on 34th Street when he was an actor.
Santa?
He was Santa. Yeah.
Santa makes dinosaurs.
It was written by John Briley, who did Malakani, Christopher Columbus, The Discovery, and Cry Freedom as well.
Mm-hmm.
Starring Ben Kingsley as Mahatma Gandhi. He's played. This is a fun IMDb choice of movies I found. They chose Sexy Beast, Iron Man 3, and Schindler's List. That is a collection,
I think Sir Kingsley deserves a little bit of some of those.
I mean, Schindler's List, that makes sense. But it's like, okay, Sexy Beast. I guess I'll touch on it now because it makes as much sense as any time. Since this movie was like 20 years in the making for Richard Attenborough, he went through a lot of different people he wanted for the titular role of Gandhi.
Okay.
I am so glad that they landed on Ben Kingsley because they were, the other possibilities were like Anthony Hopkins, Laurence Olivier, Dustin Hoffman. It's like, wow, a lot of white guys there.
Well, I mean, I did because we still are dealing with things like this. I had to look up. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah.
Is Ben Kingsley?
Yeah, he's
anywhere.
He's mixed, but at least his paternal line comes from the exact same area of India as Gandhi.
He is of Indian descent. It's like, okay, good, because nowadays it's like, okay, please tell me you did not.
But yeah, it's like because of the time it took to make this movie, that Ben Kingsley was the right age, because by the time this movie was being made, Laurence Olivier and Anthony Hopkins were a little bit too old to play the young Gandhi. Yeah. So it's like, and the only reason he got the job was because his son saw him in a London play with the Royal Shakespeare Company, I think, and said, "Dad, you got to see this guy if you're ever going to make this movie." And this is one of those coincidences.
As much as I do enjoy Anthony Hopkins and Laurence Olivier's whatever, like, that feels really
it feels wrong. I mean, it feels like, and luckily, like, Anthony Hopkins, when he was offered the role, he talked to his father. It's like, yeah, I might play Gandhi, and his father's like, is this a comedy? And so he turned it down.
Yeah, it's like listen, British people playing Gandhi just feels really wrong.
And we still have a British person playing Gandhi, but at least
he's Indian
descent. Yeah, but okay. Also playing another actor is John Gielgud, who was in Arthur, Murder on the Orient Express, the 1974 version, and Julius Caesar. And then Rohini Hattangadi, who was in Saresh, Anapath, and Arth. She plays his wife.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of people in those movies. I just chose what IMDb gave as the top 3, not counting, some of the other ones that are kind of weird. There's the casting of this is weird. I'm guessing it's because of the crediting on this is kind of weird, because I'm assuming it's either just popularity or just
at the time this is what they were billed as.
This is what they were billed as.
Well, and there are some bigger.
You got 2 lines and you're higher up for some reason.
Yeah, and there are bigger named actors now that weren't as big then.
Yeah,
that we will touch on as we go through.
Yeah, the synopsis is the life of the lawyer who became the famed leader of the Indian revolts against the British rule through his philosophy of non-violent protest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and this follows a lot of other biopic films that come before and after it.
Yeah,
where is it the quintessential story of Gandhi? No. But is it the story that everyone will then kind of point to as like, listen, this is the story that people know of him? Yes.
And Richard Attenborough even kind of literally writes that out on the film of a man's life is too large to be encapsulated in like a 2-hour film. These are just the moments that are memorable and should be remembered.
Yeah. And so it's like, this is, what he is known for and what a textbook would, touch upon.
Yeah.
And as we go through it, we are almost going to give like the Cliff Notes version of a very long life.
Yeah. And this did pretty decently at the time. It did like 52.7 million worldwide, but it cleaned up in the awards circuit kind of thing. In Oscars, it won Best Picture, Best Leading Actor, Director, Screenplay, Cinematography, Art Direction, Costume, Editing. It had like the most BAFTAs nominated ever at that time. So it was recognized as the most important film of that era.
And it is in the top 100, and I think it is pointed to in cinematic history as one of those movies that you point to as like, no.
It's important.
This was an important film for a lot of reasons.
What I like is that Richard Attenborough, when he got the award for Best Director, he's like, I don't think I should have gotten it. I think Steven Spielberg should have gone it for E.T. He was really adamant that Spielberg should have won that year, which kind of led to their friendship and it led to him being in Jurassic Park.
Okay.
It's like he felt like, yes, he did an important movie, but he's like, no, I really like that guy.
I like E.T.
I like that alien movie.
That cute little alien.
It's like you did this giant, basically the last epic of Hollywood, and you still like want to give it to this, like, I kind of like you for that. Yeah.
We can be friends now.
Yeah, but we kind of open up with these, fun with the opening credits over a sunrise in a fishing village, and we get that message of this is an abridged life. Please kind of take that with a grain of salt, in essence. But
we do what a lot of films do is like we start at the end.
Yeah,
it's 1948.
Yeah, and Gandhi is assassinated.
Yeah. And then we get probably the biggest scene in cinema history is his funeral.
Yeah, so this funeral is all practical.
Right.
It is 400,000 extras. About 200,000 were volunteers. Some were, closer, got paid like day rates or, food. It had like the most ADs of any film before the scene ever.
Right.
This was one I was actually taught in film school of like the complexity of being an AD and how this one was amazing.
Was it filmed in India?
It was filmed in India.
Okay.
The Indian government kind of bankrolled this movie because Richard Attenborough for like 20 years couldn't get anyone to give him money.
Okay.
And so they kind of paid for at least 1/3 of this film.
Okay.
And so he got a lot of help from the Indian government. Ben Kingsley reminisced in an interview about this scene is that Richard Attenborough invited him over to the camera and said, it's like, oh, you got to do something that not a lot of people do is you got to watch your own funeral kind of thing. And they're watching it and there was a wax dummy on the pyre and it's like, God, that looks fake. Ben, would you be willing to lie down and be carried the entire procession?
Okay.
I was like, yeah, I guess I have to. And he joked like that the extras, being cheeky people that they were trying to throw flowers onto his face to make him twitch and jump and flinch, and he's like, nope, I kept my composure the whole time. And it's like, and eventually they noticed that he wasn't going to blink or do anything, and they started doing it real, and then they started to feel like this was real, and then very much like the actual funeral, it got silent and you could only hear the procession boots, very much like the real funeral. And at the end he said that the driver who was taking care of him, he just said, well done, sir, you did it. And he's like, that was like the greatest compliment he ever got.
Well, and it's like, I think it is a testament to the practicality of this scene, is that in my mind's eye, from a modern movie perspective, I literally thought like, oh, they took film reel of the actual
funeral
procession, colorized it, did something. It's like, well, no, that technology didn't exist then. This would have been, it's 1948. It would have been like a black and white
film and be very grainy. And
but it's like,
if it was made today, it would be either the colorized film footage, or they would just use CG crowd filling, which they've been doing.
But there is something, awe-inspiring of a giant crowd, down like an important boulevard.
Yeah, I mean, this entire movie is filled with giant crowds, and this is just like the capstone, and it starts the movie, and it kind of shows the importance of this man that they're portraying.
Right.
But then we flash back to the train in South Africa.
Well, and I'm reminiscent because I was, we were talking about like Malcolm X. X by
Stanley, Spike Lee.
Spike Lee. Of a lot of these movies, not by any fault of their own, do have a formula. It's like you have to go back to what were they before an incident. You then have to have that kind of turning point incident, and then you have to become the person that you become that made you
the famous person. And,
this does the same thing as he is in South Africa, and he gets a South African hospitality of you are not white, you are not welcome. We do not care that you are part of the empire. And toss him out of the train car. And I think there is, for better or worse, is that it wasn't like he was naive, but he definitely has this kind of fire spirit of like, no, either we're British citizens
or we're not.
I mean, and that's, true of a lot of stories of the British Empire, American, Australia, it's like comes a point where it's like, are we equal or not? Because if we're not equal,
then why are we doing all this?
Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And this happens here where he, does a roundtable discussion with a lot of the people saying, listen, this isn't fair. We need to do something about it.
Yeah. And that thing of, I might be the first round table or the Tea Party essence of all the important people in Gandhi's life saying like, I might be a rich Indian or a rich Muslim, but I know that I'll be thrown on the street if I walk with a white man, even if I employ him.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is right. We're going to actually do this. Like, you're going to be trouble, but you're the right kind of trouble. I'm happy for you to do it. So we get the first rally in essence.
Yeah. And burning these passes.
These passes that they have to carry. And I do love the thing of like, you write beautifully, but you're terrible at moving men. And it's like, it's the establishing point of like, we didn't need Gandhi's actual childhood. We did this, like, this is the start point.
This is where the story starts, and it shows that he does have a passion for injustice. Yeah. And I do like this is the start of the nonviolence of, whoever throws their piece in there and they're like, he just keeps doing it. And there's a reporter there. He learns like, listen, you are going to look bad if all I'm doing is picking up paper to throw it and you're beating me.
Me bloody, yeah.
The press will have a field day saying, oh, this was awful. And it, for the longest.
And it's that thing of like English law versus the English police or the enforcement of the law, which is still a problem today in every country. There's the law and there's the enforcement.
Right. And this, I mean, the first, the South African thing does go on long, but it does serve a purpose as it shows that the English will clamp down harder.
Yeah.
And it shows Gandhi's ability to stand up and say, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
We are going to dig our heels in.
Yeah. And it's also showing his willingness to work with anyone, because we get the introduction of his friend Charlie the clergyman, and their I love their first interaction, because it shows the very first movie appearance of Daniel Day-Lewis as the South African hooligan who gets yelled out by his mother. It's like, well, didn't Jesus say turn the other cheek? It's like, I don't actually want to be beaten. It's like, if you want to get things done, sometimes you have to sacrifice your body, kind of thing.
Well, and they do. He is a leader who does not mind being in the front.
Yeah.
Like, I will take the first blow. And we have this scene where they are marching in the mine saying, you arrested half their comrades. We're not working till you let them out. And you get these horses running. And I had to look this up because I'm like, I wonder. They said, unless you have a very well-trained war horse, which most horses,
are
not trained,
otherwise,
they will do everything in their power not to be on unstable ground.
Yeah,
so lying down
was the smartest thing.
Thing they could do, and it's like it turned them back.
Yep, and we get introduction to Martin Sheen as the American New York Times reporter as Mr. Walker at the same time. But yeah, this South African area is not only showing the young Gandhi, but also shows like it's a kind of experimental, but small scale. Of what eventually would become for all of India.
Right, and he does succeed in getting the royal governor or the general overseeing to repeal that act and basically, say, okay, knock it off.
Yeah.
Please leave. And then we flash forward to...
Well, then there's just one point before I love making the police stand up for him with the God Save the King. That made me chuckle. It's like everyone's standing. It's like saying, I will kill anyone who will try to violate. It's like yes, you should resist this law, but if you become violent, they're going to just meet you with violence. Just don't resist, and they can kill you, but all they'll have is your body. They won't have your spirit. And then everyone's standing up with him, and then he sings
God Save
the King. So the police have to stand for him as well, which I quite enjoy.
Yes, it's a cute little... I mean, there are really good one-liners, whether they are true or not. I mean, one that I like is when he goes to the mine, and the miner comes out and says, I'm going to do this, and Gandhi's like, well, we're going to do this. He's like, well, I warned you. He's like, well, we warned each other.
Yeah, we've both been warned. Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah, it's like,
well, that's a good line. I mean, it is forceful without being threatening.
Yeah,
it's like, and that I think is Gandhi. Is like, there's force, but there's no threat.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, he's a pacifist. It's like, he's not. He's just not going to offer you.
I mean, that's the thing. Is like everyone's like, oh, you're anti-violence. I'm like, I am it's like, I'm not going to engage in violence, but it's like, violence does occur.
But it's like, I'm not going to just let these unjust laws to exist. Right. I'm just not going to offer violence to stop.
Exactly.
I'm just going to stop them in my own way. But yeah, he eventually goes to, it's 1950 in Bombay, India. He gets to return.
And
it's during the shadow of World War One.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like you get two exits because like one of the royal governors is getting off on the white side, and on the third class side, Gandhi's coming out and is getting a much bigger reception.
Yeah,
which I mean, it also shows that he is not used to large crowds. He is very uncomfortable, and I think there is this like. I think it's been said about like people like Lincoln of like, listen, they are very smart, capable men, but they're not necessarily always the best, speakers, orators. It's like, so he just gets up and goes, thanks for coming out, everyone.
Then we get basically what I would call the montage of meeting India.
The real India.
The real India of him going on the train, and then like, okay, I see the impoverished people. You see the, if you offer violence, one British officer might be dead, but then a whole row of Indians will be laying down by the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
You get the we don't want you here kind of thing.
Yep.
And the second officer, and that was like, I recognize that guy. It's like, that's he's in Lord of the Rings. He played the King Theoden.
Okay.
Yeah, but we also get he's also the captain of the Titanic. If you don't know your Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay, okay. But we get the first congressional meeting of like the people who want
the home rule
the crowd
garden party kind of thing.
And I enjoy this as a speech. Is you do get what are career politicians, and career politicians in any country talk a big game, but as Gandhi points out, is like, your talk means nothing to the people.
Yeah, all they want is bread, and
it's like until you meet their needs, this is for nothing. And you do see people in the crowd shaking their heads, and you start to see that he is winning over some of these, politicians, saying like, well, he may have a point.
Yeah, I also like one of the politicians like says he reads his all his writings, and is like, after that speech, like, I actually should read. I actually should.
It's like, but that's politicians lie. Politicians say things to get in power.
Yeah.
We get kind of like the first problem, which is this landlord problem.
Yeah.
Gandhi's called out to like, listen, we've been planting indigo. We have no food.
Yeah.
We have no money.
And you're buying the clothing from anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where he basically gets his like, no, we're not going to buy stuff. We're going, it's like, this is our first problem to overcome.
Yeah.
And you do get his first trial. Well, his first trial, because he gets arrested for agitating.
Yeah.
And the judge is like, well, okay, pay us 100 rupees
for your
you can go on your way. He
bail.
goes, no, I'm not gonna pay you 100 rupees. He goes, oh,
it's that stubbornness of like, they need him not to be arrested.
Yeah, they need him to go away because
that could be a riot. And he's like saying, no, this is unjust. It's like, well, we can send you to jail. It's like, I'd be happy to go there. It's like, okay, we'll set you on bail. I'm not going to pay it. Okay, well, just go away, please, because I can't arrest you because you haven't really.
Yeah, they know. It's that great thing of, because he's a lawyer, he knows the law.
Yeah.
He knows what they can do. And he's like, you can arrest me too.
Yeah.
And you now have this big crowd. Not that it's that thing of like, he's not advocating violence. It goes, there's a crowd.
Yeah.
You know what a crowd does.
Yeah.
But he gets out and everyone's excited. He's like, we need to document. We need to keep people in the.
He wants to dictate the conversation and the message kind of thing, of all the things. I mean, we get his idea of the general strike of prayer and fasting and all these things.
Well, yeah, it's like, he's like saying, I'm not saying to strike. I'm saying we're going to go pray. If work doesn't get done
while we're praying and fasting, then that's so be it. But
that because of that general strike, he gets arrested again.
Yeah.
This time, riots break out.
Yeah. And then we get that
General Dyer.
Dyer, of British guns against unarmed.
No, and this is a
crowd.
famous massacre.
Yeah.
This is probably in the lead up to Indian independence. This is one of those moments where, if you point to like the civil rights movement in the U.S. when they saw that the dogs and the water cans were turned against innocent people, this is very similar. Where it's like people saw through the reporters and
the photos.
And also it's like the British officer said, I needed to tell them to,
it's that thing of those, like, we are so outnumbered that this was supposed to be a message to everyone of, I will fire into the crowd.
Yeah.
If I had my tank, I would have used that. And that's like, you knew there were women and children and they were all unarmed. It's like, didn't care.
Yep. And this comes to like,
and it's like, 1,516 were killed. Thousands more were wounded.
And it's like, no, it looked bad. And the royal governor, basically they come up, to him saying like, listen, this is not a new problem. You can act like, oh, this is one bad apple. It's like, it's not.
Yeah.
It's a systemic problem.
Yeah, it's that thing.
You need to go away.
Yeah, it's that thing of, it's like, well, we condemned the officer who did it. It's like, it doesn't matter that you condemned it by being here. You're going to have, there's a spectrum of evil of you controlling a land that you shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
Saying like, yes, you just being here is evil. The far end spectrum is this general who will kill anyone, but you all need to go.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter. One will breed the other.
Yeah. It's like it doesn't matter. It's like on one hand, it's like you're just, you think we're worthless, to the other extreme. You want us dead.
Yeah.
But this is also the first time that the issue of the Muslim Hindu problem is brought up. And it is, you can see in definitely all the on the Indian delegation of like, they know that this is an issue.
Yeah.
But they're like, but it's going to be our issue.
Yeah. We don't need you to tell us how to deal with it. Yeah.
You get a very large rally of him basically saying, burn the clothes, spin your own cloth, don't give them any money.
Yeah. And,
he is preaching,
you have to practice
Muslim,
what you do. Yeah.
We are all Indian. We need to get rid of the caste system. We need to be
no one's
equals.
Untouchable. No one's, religious wrong. And that's, it's a big deal for a huge country like this.
Well, and it's like, this is where, I mean, if it was done in modern times, you might start to get characters who fracture away from this, saying, hey, I want independence, but I like the caste system, or hey, I want independence, but I don't like Muslims.
Well, like, so there's that one of his inner circle in essence, who is like the leader of the Muslim group.
Yes.
This would be the point where he would like start breaking off and saying, no, I really need to protect my people instead of like our people. And God's like saying, this is our people, and that will show up later. But
it's subtly done.
It's subtly done now.
And this is where I was like, I'm not as familiar with my histories. Is Miss Slade shows up.
Yeah, Mirabelle, played by Geraldine James, English woman. She's an admiral's daughter. She's like adopted by Gandhi. It's like,
and it's like, I'm sure this is important. Like, this is, I'm sure it's like, I don't understand her importance, and that this is my fault. I do not.
But it's also the movie's fault for not explaining why this woman gets a big role, and then we just she's just there.
She floats in the background. She is obviously close to his family, to him, to his wife. There's an emotional connection.
Yeah.
But I think that would be my criticism is yes, because not everyone is versed in all the histories. Like, okay, why was this person introduced and included?
Yeah. But then as time goes on, it's hard to contain mob rule.
Right.
And so violence starts sparking, and officers are getting killed. And so Gandhi's like, no, this is exactly the opposite of what I want. So to prove that, I'm going to fast until you guys stop this, because this is a flywheel and all that.
This is his first fast, big fast. And it works.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. And I know that other protesters have done this. We got Cesar Chavez. No one likes to see someone suffer.
Yeah.
And it is this kind of thing, like, he is enough beloved person to like saying, okay, we will calm it down. Would you please eat something?
Yeah, and Ben Kingsley did lose a lot of weight for this role. I mean, like he said, while he was filming, he was eating very little. He was practicing yoga and trying to get into the character as much as possible.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, he lost weight for, to be believable. He
Well,
wanted to be believable.
And it is interesting because, like, when he's done with his fast, a British officer shows up, and we're starting to get a softening of the British officer saying, "Hey,
I gotta
arrest you." It's like, what? Sedition?
For what?
It's like, I like this scene a lot coming up in the trial.
Oh, with the judge.
The judge rises.
Oh, yes,
when he comes in. It is
because this is a reversal of trial ethics or trial procedure protocol. Because usually you rise before the judge.
Yeah,
but the judge rises before.
And
the
you
prisoner.
See everyone else goes, if the judge rises, I have to. I'm very much in that scene of oh, well, you said God save the queen. I have to, or king.
Yeah, king at that time. Yeah, and again now.
But yeah, I do like the judge is smart enough to know that this is bunk charges. And he goes, my job is to enforce this law. And Gandhi knows this too.
Yeah.
And he goes, but I really hope that our government is smart enough to realize that this
is unjust.
Is unjust.
It's kind of like the problem of mandatory minimums. Now it's like it gives no leeway. It's like, this is stupid. You don't deserve to go to jail, but I can't do anything. I have to send you to it.
Yeah, it's like like literally my job is to say, okay, send him to jail. But gives that kind of editorial of you shouldn't. And then we get the flash forward 2 years later.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen is back from, with his Walker character.
Yeah, his Walker,
with Uncle Vernon.
With Uncle Richard Griffins shows up as another I'm guessing a British reporter to go with Walker as the American reporter to say, hey, we're going to follow you. And we see Gandhi now older, like showing off, like he recreates his wedding vows with his wife.
Which, I mean, is very cute. There is that kind of things like, we were married at 13. It's like, okay, yeah, different times. But we get the next big thing he's going to do, which is the Salt March.
Yeah.
And it is... the first thing I thought of, and this is just my history brain, is Martin Luther King's walk across the Selma Bridge.
Yeah,
is like this like declaration of like, I'm going to walk.
Yeah,
you are going to try to stop me, but I'm going to march peacefully.
Well, and I love like the British officers because they cut to them saying, well, what's he going to do? Is like he's going to walk the 250 miles to the sea, and then he's going to create salt. And it's like, well, we're going to let him do it because all it's going to be like is 50, pence of salt. We're not going to be missing out. But that act of stubbornness has led to the salt industry, being threatened because they said salted water is what keeps these people in control.
And they have a monopoly.
And they have a monopoly on it. And so people start making their own salt. So it's like, okay, we have to arrest Gandhi yet again because he promised to march and kind of take over an actual salt factory. Or refinery.
They arrest him, and so
someone else has to do it.
And it is, because you have Martin Sheen there, and it's like they are just walking up in rows, and getting hit over and over and over again.
And this, I think, is the point of a lot of characters in this movie. Martin Sheen, I think Charlie the preacher's there for the same reason, and some later on, some other characters is there's a visual power to having an observer in the scene of if you have just a violent act between perpetrator and victim, that's hard to watch. But if you have a scene with perpetrator, victim, and onlooker reacting to it, apparently the emotion is like 10 times more palpable. So having Martin Sheen there crossing himself and flinching and feeling, and these people just walking up and just stand there and getting beaten senseless adds to these scenes, adds to this emotional impact, to add to the audience's emotional discomfort. Say that this happened, and
that is the power of the non-violence. Is like it does need a witness.
Yes,
all these things need the press, and Martin Sheen goes and says like, listen, India is independent in my mind because Britain has lost the moral high ground. And Gandhi is invited to London for independent talks, which are just for show.
Yeah, and I like that they make it just for show by having basically the movie be just newsreels. They don't try to recreate much of it. I mean, yes, the newsreels are recreations because it's still Bing Kingsley, but we don't get to see him talking to anyone or any of these in colorful because it's just like, no, this is just show. This is not, substance in essence.
Well, and then we get into World War II, and Gandhi, probably at the anger of all of his is saying like, I'm not going to exploit this war for our benefit,
because that's not
because it's like we need them to leave on good terms, and you can see them all almost wanting to throw their hands up like, this is the perfect time. They have no troops, and he goes, no, I'm not going to do it. But he is arrested again, and this time is like because he's anti-war.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm still nonviolent, and they're saying it's like you can't be nonviolent with the Nazis. Like, I don't know that.
Well, and because this is where he's in a much nicer prison now, and Life magazine shows up, and she's kind of acting like the audience, like, can you be nonviolent with Hitler? It goes, maybe.
So we get introduced with a quick introduction to John Ratzenberger's character as a lieutenant, and he was dubbed for some reason.
Yeah, I was wondering that.
The rumor is that he was dubbed by Martin Sheen, but I don't know why they would choose to do that, but he was.
Okay.
And then Candice Bergen playing Margaret Barker White, who is the famous Life magazine photographer who took the picture of Gandhi spinning his own thread that they recreate in the scene. And and it's kind of like, they say it's like, it's that appeal of powerful men kind of thing of, he's an old Indian man in his own spun cloth diaper, as they always derogatorily put it.
Right.
And he's still getting this kind of attention from this beautiful blonde woman. And it's like, there's something compelling about this man, and they wanted to show that.
It was said in the opening scene, and it does echo through. It's like, listen, this is not a man of power. This is not a man of means. This is not a man who has done anything remarkable, art or science or literature. He's like, he is just
a stubborn man.
A man. And I think, I mean, in terms of like storytelling, it's like, well, no, people gravitate to like, no, you're just a person who's, sticking to his convictions. But to show that he is just a man in this scene is like his wife dies of a heart attack. Rich Abbott lets us sit there with him. Is you can tell he's heartbroken. It's probably the only few times that you actually see deep, hurting emotion.
And that's where we say like the abridged part of his life, because we don't get a lot of emotional or time spent with this relationships with other people. We get a brief like fight with his wife when she doesn't
very beginning,
when she doesn't want to be an untouchable by working the latrine, and he's like, well, then leave. And then they just like, no, I'm your wife. And then we get like brief moments of what's it like to be his wife, and then him calling her a tyrant jokingly. But it's like we don't get a in-depth, because that's not the point of this movie.
No, but it does let us have a moment that he does care. But yes, then
so now
we go to the India Muslim divide, or the Hindu Muslim divide,
because it was established with the Time magazine reporter before the wife died, of saying that like his friend in the group was like, who's the Muslim, is working with the British, saying he's using his power to create another state instead of keeping India together. And now we actually get the sit down tables of saying this might actually happen.
Well, because they are basically, the British are saying, listen, you're going to get your independence. How that looks is really up to you. Gandhi tries a last minute compromise saying, hey,
what if the Muslims
ran this first government? And everyone's like, no.
Well, and I love that. It's like, we in this room will say yes to that. But the people out there are already afraid you're giving too much to the Muslim people, who are a minority and who we don't fully trust.
And the leader of the Muslim sect says, like, listen, you get two choices. We either have two separate nations, or I'm guaranteeing you there's going to be a civil war.
And it's both bad options. And
you get the raising of the two flags.
It's the
Pakistani and the Indian flag.
The partition of the two countries.
And you get what. Well, and you get another scene. It's like, I don't know if it's famous, but it's definitely seared in my brain, of the two columns of people going to the...
the Muslims going to the west and the Hindus going to the east. They are all then uprooted from their ancestral homes.
Right, and each side blame the
other for this.
And you get the fighting
start of the fight of like, this border will not be safe because of this. And there are countless now more modern examples of this time that's kind of not been presented in media that much. But it has been a very hard story for both sides, because, as they said, there have been Muslims and Hindus in every corner of this village. Giant country.
And so you had to think like everyone is being separated, whether they want to or not. Well, and if you like, let's, what this says, like, even if you stayed, you were not safe, because the violence just got
because
more and more.
As the Hindus were in the the main part of India were chanting with their black flags of death to Muslims, and were hurting and killing as many as they could.
Right, and then the Muslims would retaliate, death to Hindus.
Yeah.
Is this that becomes Gandhi's second fast saying, I have done something wrong.
Yeah.
I am going to fast to death.
Yeah. This is my penance for not stopping this.
For not stopping this. And I think you see a lot of people like, we're not going to take the bait.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, most of them stopped. And he's like, no. I said everyone. And then it's like, well, okay, here's some gang members laying down their swords saying, okay, we won't fight more. And you get a father saying, please eat something because like, I'm going to hell. I don't want you to die too. And him saying, no, you need to actually go do penance. You can't just.
Yeah, you don't just get, it's that like living the message of like, you killed a child and parents. It's like, now you have to take an orphan Muslim into your home.
That's how
and you have to raise them Muslim. You cannot, convert them to your side kind of thing. And it's like, this apparently was just a step too far. And that's why you get the assassin.
Well, I mean, he does restore calm.
Eventually, briefly.
I mean, ever so briefly. It's like, it does work, but it is that thing that, whereas in a modern movie, those fractures would have been set. And it is, like I said, dealt is like that assassin does pop up in other scenes.
Yeah.
You see him there.
You see him at the compound when Gandhi tells us
Gandhi.
It's like death to Gandhi, and like, who said that? Or at the compound when guys like, you are only spreading fear, and I don't want this. This is like, wrong. These are your brothers. And it's like, you see that this message is not reaching this person, and that it's like just that one person can just take away someone from the world that espoused for most of their life peace.
Well, and his last act was going to be, I'm going to go to Pakistan, and I'm going to show you it's okay.
Yeah,
we do not have to fight. And
he didn't make it.
Yeah,
and his last words were, "Oh God," and that is actually inscribed on his tomb. Of this was his ending, and that funeral of hundreds of thousands, revering him, and it was a touchy subject because even when debating about how to present Gandhi in this film, the Indian people had wanted to have their say with Richard Attenborough.
Yeah,
and like one woman even said, like, he's so important, he's better than all of us. He should just be a ball of light. And he's like, I'm trying to make a movie about a man, not Tinkerbell, kind of thing.
Well, and that is the problem with any figure that gets revered too much. I mean, Lincoln, Washington, in our own history is like, these are not perfect people. They should not be treated like perfect. They did important things.
Yeah.
But it is important to also show them that like they did things wrong. Yeah. They had vices. They had issues. And that's what makes them, if you want to do coy fingers, better than us, because they were able to overcome a lot of these things.
Even with those human elements, they still were able to do great things.
Yes. But the movie ends. It is interesting, if you want to say like then and now. And I know that it is that you would think even today, you'd say like, listen, this issue with Pakistan and India is still going on. I mean, knock on wood.
Yeah.
They have not destroyed each other, but it is not
a peaceful
frontier.
Yeah.
Is that I think every so many years you get like, there's a skirmish.
Yeah.
And it's like, it is that sad thing of, you almost like, you could see like, no, everyone was able to sit at the table one time, and now no one will be, sitting at their tables anytime soon.
Yeah. But this was mostly well received by the Indian people. Mm-hmm. Ben Kingsley spoke of as like, if you have like your still unspoken caste system of India. Yeah. He said like the upper class, your rich people, your historians, they treated them poorly. Mm-hmm. Saying, and when the movie came out, it's like, oh, it's a movie of 400,000 errors. And then, but it's like, but if you talk to the people, if you talk to Gandhi's daughter and friends, it's like, no, you got it right. We're happy you did this. Mm-hmm. And they said he actually, sat and had lunch with Gandhi's grandson while he was in old man makeup. And he's like, the man never talked to me during the whole meeting. And I was like, I had to go shoot, and I'm just eating lunch with him. And then the grandson just like, you're being dictated by greater forces and you're doing fine, and walked away. Right. And it's like, well, I was being dictated by Richard Attenborough, but I appreciated the effort, because he's like, he wanted to do it right, and that he wanted to get the voice right, he wanted to get the movement right, it's amazing for like 1982. Like the aging makeup looks right.
Oh, it does, and I think you're almost like, did you let Ben Kingsley just age a little bit? Like, okay, let's take a few years off.
Like, no.
But no, it's and I think there are figures in history, and especially if you know like the big ones of world history. It's like the amount of weight on an actor's shoulder to do it with as much dignity and respect and honesty.
Yeah.
That it's like, no, to get, like, no, you're doing
fine
is enough.
And he said, like, he's this guy as a kid loved imitating people, so he would listen to Gandhi on speeches and try to get the voices right. And he provided a recording to the sound editor, and the guy's listening to it, and after, just nodding, and after a while it's like, Ben, this is what you gotta sound like. And he's like, that is me. It's like, oh, well, then
then we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
No, and so I think in that respects, it does a lot of good.
Yeah, no, and like I said, it's super abridged. Yep. This is a very long life with a very many examples of good, bad, what have you. And it is just like, okay, it's he fights against injustice, gets arrested, comes out in speeches, fights against injustice, gets arrested. It is a cycle, but that was his life.
And I think, like I said, I will think about Malcolm X's story is like, yes, there is a bias to anyone.
Yeah.
I appreciate an honest take of, this is what we're going to focus on. They're still a person.
Yeah.
Good, bad.
Yeah.
This is what they achieve.
Yeah.
We are looking at the achievement, not to try to dissect, were they perfect?
Yeah.
Because let's face it, no one is perfect.
No one is perfect. But, it's a larger than life, well-known figure across the world.
Yes.
And unfortunately, as transitions go, we're going to talk about probably someone, if not as famous, probably more famous.
Literally.
But not real.
But
we're going to be doing Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, the 6th movie, because Half-Blood Prince.
Yes, we're going to do Half-Blood, Harry Potter.
So back to the British Empire.
Back to the British, and their magical ways.
Their ways, but hopefully you watch Gandhi. I know it's a long movie, but it doesn't feel that terrible when watching it. You don't feel like you're not looking at your watch. But it is an important film. And like I said, it's the last basically Hollywood epic ever made. So I would suggest watching it if you haven't. If not,
break it up into pieces. There is an intermission if you need to go stretch your legs.
And hopefully you can join us next week for Harry Potter
and the Half-Blood Prince.
A little bit easier watch. And thanks for listening. Bye.
Hello, Josh.
Hello, Noah.
Welcome to NPR.
We're going to talk to a man who spins his own cloth to make nut bags to make his own milk.
Sweaty balls.
Sweaty balls.